Yeah.
Oh.
Oh. Okay, so it'll be called to order.
Roll call. That's funny, because I used last year's.
Guess we all just assumed we were here.
Yeah, I so.
Budget committee members, Judy Valentine. Here. Steve Byron. Here. Louise Holiday.
She is, I think, watching the live stream.
Susan Saunders. Here. Joe Van de Heen. Here. Budget officer, James Mason.
Here.
Board members, Becky. Here. Rick Booth.
Here.
Rita Eckerman. Here. John McCullough.
Here.
Greg Dunn.
Here.
Quorum present. Okay.
And the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Well, the roll call actually introduced the budget committee members. I don't know if we need to go through another introduction. Everybody knows everybody, I think. Election of chairperson.
I nominate Steve.
Oh, I second that. No, I know you're good at
Are
it.
there any other nominations?
I mean, poor Joe usually gets stuck doing it.
Well, that's,
It's been,
I'm fine. Oh, you're, Jamie made me beat.
Oh, okay, all right, I'll do it.
it's been moved and seconded to nominate Steve Barham as the budget committee chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have the presentation of the budget.
All right, so I'll go a little more detail since our chairperson hasn't sat through this before. I'll have to keep wiggling the mouse. So the way that the budget is created is we're funded off of three main funds. We have a permanent rate tax that's 82 cents per thousand, and operations levy that's $1.27 per thousand, and second ops levy that's 35 cents per thousand. So each of these funds, based off of our district to value calculate rate, creates a different amount because of the different balances. So the permanent rate brings in 381,501.78. The operations levy, which is the majority of our operations costs, it's 590,000 and change. And then the secondary levy is 162,657. So this brings in a total taxable income of 1.134 million for the district. These over here in the green are forecasted for the next 4 years based off of a 3% assessed value increase, which is the max cap for Oregon, so they can't go above 3%. So these are just forecasted numbers to give us an idea of what we're looking at for the next 4 years. The column over here on the left, where it says budget year and has this long cascading list, this is all of the income for the district incorporated through the next year. Some of this is based off of the taxes, and then some of it is forecasted. We can't guarantee every single bit of income because, for instance, we put values in there for conflagration. We don't know for sure that there's going to be a fire that they request us for conflagration on. It's not a guarantee. It's becoming more of a guarantee, but it's not a guarantee. So we put a value in there to give you a reference. Put a value in there this year at 5,000. Last year, conflagration brought in just under 25,000 for the fires that we responded on for the state. So we put a value in there, and it's just an estimation. It's really going to be whatever. It could be nothing because we didn't get dispatched to anything. It could be 100,000 because we went on 5 fires. You just never know. So So starting at the top, the permanent rate, operations levy, and second operations levy are the first three. Remaining funds is the funds that are left in our account at the end of the year. This is a forecasted number based off of our current spending. So we estimate on June 30th, at the end of the fiscal year, there should be roughly $242,000 in the account. That's all of our funds combined. Previous levied taxes expected at $18,872. Tax note at $300,000. Our PWA lease brings in $14,000. We put $1 for sale of surplus. We have a tender that is going to be on surplus. It'll go up for auction. It could sell anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000, depending on how much tenders are going for at that time. So it just really depends on who's out there bidding on it. EF recovery, we put $5,000. We have over 10,000 pending in EF recovery, so it's probably going to be more than 5,000. But again, we don't predict how many car crashes and stuff are going to happen that we bill for, so we put in a value to keep that line open. We did not apply for a SAFER grant, so there is no funding for a SAFER grant. We did apply for an AFG grant, so I put $1 in there. The AFG grant is $875,000 for a new Type 1 engine. Other grants, we apply for pretty much every grant we can get our hands on, so that's going to come in. There's already, last week, we just got a little over $4,000 for a float pump out of Three Rivers, their charitable fund. So we get money in all the time for grants, put $1 in there so it holds the line item open. It'll be obviously a lot more than $1 by the end of the year. And then interest at $12,000. So that brings our total resources for the year to $1.731 million for our operating costs. So everybody still with me so far?
What is the interest?
Right.
I'm sorry, what was the
What
question?
is the interest from?
It's from LGIP, which holds the majority of the district funds from the tax levies. And so we earn a higher rate of interest, so we bank that with the state of Oregon. I believe it's the state of Oregon.
And they pay interest on that money.
Yeah, and it's generally better than you get in the banks. And then we have funds in Oregon Coast Bank. There's a money market account there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we move on?
Yeah, what is the 300,000 tax anticipation note?
So that's monies to make sure that we make it from July to November. So if you look at the last 4 years, we've been essentially eating our rollover because we did not raise our levy in 2020 because of COVID-19. We also did not raise our levy in 2016 when the ambulance went away. So currently, our budget is based off of 2012 numbers. We felt at the time that it was better not to raise the levy in the middle of COVID-19 because there was a lot of people who were struggling financially because a lot of people couldn't work, a lot of people were having trouble with their rent and everything else. So we kept it at the same rate. That has caused us to essentially every year eat a little bit of these remaining all funds. To the point now where we have to do a tax note so that we can have money in the account to November, and then when the taxes come in, the tax note gets paid off and we go back to our regular revenue. So we'll do that this year and we'll do that next year. Next year is the first year that we get to apply to increase our levy to the current costs that we're operating at today. Any other questions?
Are you considering putting something on the ballot?
On what?
On the ballot?
Not for this election that we're currently in, where the board has been proposed with putting a bond on the ballot in November to fix the building and do the apparatus.
Well, I knew it wasn't on this one because
Yeah,
I'm now in your district and saw that there wasn't anything.
no, nothing from us. Nope, the board
But in
has,
November, we might see something?
If the board says yes, they have till July to let me know, because I have to file the first document in August
Okay.
for that. So, yeah. At this point, it's just a proposal by me to try to get this building situated and get a new Type 1 engine and a new tender for the district.
Something to do in your spare time.
Sure. Any other ones? Okay. So, the operating budget, we'll start down here at the bottom. So, total ending balance from 23-24 budget, so the 242 we expect to be at on June 30th is in this first cell. The projected funding for 24-25 is the remaining balance from that list of resources minus the 242, so that gives you the 1.731 from the total resources from before. Total projected income, general fund, 1.731. Total expected cost for the year, 1.501, leaves an unappropriated ending fund balance of $230,548.92. We have one interest payment of $2049.85 for engine 72. We have one payment for engine 72 of $19,728.27. And $10,000 reserved for contingencies, so it gives a total capital fund with contingencies of $31,778.12. That means that we'll carry over $198,770.80 next June, and there is zero unappropriated funding in this forecasted budget. So, everybody, any questions with that?
Is that 198 that's going to carry over to the next year, is that the same as the 242?
This year.
that we had this year?
Yep, so that's the difference between the 242 and the 198 is seeing that cost that we're eating. Yep, because of,
And you do the note to cover that.
yep. The note's not a long term, that's why it's just a note. It's just to get us to when taxes come in and then it goes back away. So, all right, so where all the numbers for cost come from. So the first section is our personnel services. So our personnel services, we have the medical evaluations for our firefighters that are due. They're due this year, depending on the doctors. They call us in and tell us how often we have to do our medical evals. Any lab fees that we have associated, our lifeguard, life flight memberships that we provide to all our personnel, the payroll taxes, our PERS, our medical, dental, life benefits, workers' comp, payroll expenses, which are mostly the direct deposit fees, our overtime fund, our overtime tax cost, and then our deferred comp altogether, which is roughly $966,203.18 out of the general budget total. So that's where the most of our funds go, is to make sure we have personnel and firefighters available. Under operational costs, maintenance, repairs, and fuel are the top two there that cost the most. We have money set aside in case the boat needs something specifically. Our PPE was cut back this year. All of our stuff is relatively newer, thanks to grant funds that we received, so we don't anticipate getting a lot of PPE, nor will we have money to get a lot of PPE this next year. Medical supplies are about the same as where they were last year. And then the rest of it's mostly just the minor equipment repairs if we have to take a chainsaw in for any kind of repair. If we need to exchange something out on uniforms. Our equipment testing is done annually for hoses and ladders and the CBAs and our hazmat sensors and everything. And then Simply Fleet is our maintenance records for tracking all the stuff that needs to be fixed on trucks. Training got cut back quite a bit, as we, are taking and eating from that fund, we're trying to balance it out. So, There's only money in there to maintain our Target Solutions account, which tracks all of our training of all of our firefighters and provides us with online training. And then there's the licensing and certification costs in case we have to do any fingerprinting for personnel to get their certificates for the first time from DPSST. Materials and services, this is where most of the bills are associated. So accounting, our audit, the Oregon Ethics Commission, legal notices, legal costs, those are all in there. Our office supplies, all of our subscriptions, whether it be for the computers or our Amazon business accounts, all of that for ordering supplies for the station. Our utilities, which is our phones, internets, power, water, gas, cell phones, tablets, you name it. Buildings and grounds, we lease the SLR building up past the school, and it has some of our emergency cash up there, and it's also an extra bay for vehicles because we don't have enough bays here at this station for all the vehicles. The station mortgage, the amount that we pay the city for the station right now, based off our current agreement, and then building maintenance. Dispatching, so our dispatching fees stayed roughly the same. Now that we're not crossing the bridge to the north as much as we used to, that actually has saved us on fuel and dispatching. So that was a blessing. That didn't go up. But our insurance went up quite a bit. Everybody's did. The general across the board for insurance was about 18% increase in costs for the entire fire service of Oregon. So I don't know what they're predicting, but there was a lot of rise in costs there. Altogether, I think our insurance went up just a little over $20,000 for all of our accounts combined. So that was a pretty big hit for us. So materials and services, $484,097. Our operations cost is $50,800. That coupled with our personal services is where you get the 1.501, 118 cents right here. So out of the expected funding, expected costs for 24, 25 budget. So, am I losing one?
Thank you. Like I said, you make it easy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is appropriate place and time to ask, but on the payroll topic, are we keeping up with similar districts, size districts? Or are paid people getting increases? Are they paid appropriately?
No.
There's nothing we can do about that?
It really comes down to the demographics of the community. Our levies, despite a couple of opinions in the community, our levies have not increased more than 10 cents in the last almost 14 years. Okay? So, if you were to take consideration that if you lived off the same paychecks you were getting 14 years ago, would you have enough to spend today in today's economy? And so we've already extended ourselves as much as we can to try to be competitive with other agencies as much as we can, and we are not there. And that has caused us to eat our rollover slump. So we will have to raise our operations levy to a value that is consistent with today's operating costs, because we are trying to live in the past when it comes to finances to the district. So we just don't have the money to offer them, any of the staff, at this rate for what I feel that they're actually worth.
It concerns me because I believe in, I want the fire department to grow. put out the neighbor's fire. I believe in this department. And I would hate to see, now the bond that we're gonna maybe put out there in November, that include money for salaries?
No, no. A bond is only allowed for capital. What's the mouse?
Mouse.
The mouse? Oh. You want the mouse?
Sure.
The bond can only be used for capital expenses. So buildings, trucks, that's it. Like,
In order to raise money for salaries and personnel.
I have to operations levies, yes.
How
Yes.
does one of those occur?
So in the November of 20, try to make sure I get the fiscal year correct here. November of 25 and May of 26 election years. Those are the two that we're able to go out and try to increase our levy, because if we don't increase it or renew it by July of 26, then it goes away. If it goes away, so does the entirety of our staff. And that would include me, because our general fund of 82 cents per thousand was designated and created in 1998. And it does not, there is no way to increase it without consolidating into a new district or merging with another district and having the state come in and do an evaluation to increase that amount. So when the district was formed in 1998, we were assessed at 82 cents per thousand, which I remember in 1998, I could do a lot with a few dollars. So, 82 cents probably wasn't that far off back then. Today, 82 cents is not very much. I know another fire district that I was applying for a while back, that their permanent rate is $2.50, and ours is 82 cents. So we have to use levies to counterbalance the fact that our permanent rate does not keep up with the current economic status. The other side of this is we are restricted to 3% growth. So if you look at the CPI for last year, I believe it was 8% for last year. 6%,
I wish.
6% this year, something like that.
My numbers aren't even close to that. I
Yeah.
have stuff hitting me at double of what it was in December.
Well, that drives my point even more. We're capped at 3%. So if the CPI goes up 12%, we can only go up 3%. It doesn't matter how high assessed values go up, we can only collect 3% back on. We are capped. That's a law that was created decades ago by Oregon. And so it doesn't matter how high it goes up. Once it hits 3%, that's as high as we can go. So, when fuel is going astronomically high, we're only able to collect a percentage of being able to match up to that.
I think some of the details, like, the financial details, like you just explained, if there was, a lot of people in this town and county don't understand those numbers.
Yeah,
They don't realize that, inflation's going up 12% or something, but you can only go up 3%.
right.
Is there a way to get that information out to the public before we do
Yeah.
November, ballot stuff?
If the board approves going forward with a bond in July, then we will start a campaign to get information out to the public so that they understand. For instance, a really big misunderstanding is real market value versus assessed value. So a lot of people are aware that their house holds a real market value of $600,000, but your assessed value is actually quite a bit lower than that. Your taxes are based off your assessed value, not your market value. And so when the fire agency puts out, or the college, the library, those are two that are going on right now, when they put out and say it's going to be this much per thousand assessed value, you have to look at that lower number of assessed value in equivalent. So 60 cents per thousand assessed value on I think it was, what do we use the number, $300,000 home, was like $15 a month. So essentially, for less than you're paying for your Hulu subscription, the fire district can fix the fire station and get apparatus to replace old apparatus, you know? So it's things like that that we'll try to use examples that people can relate to.
Because we all know that, we all have a knee-jerk response when somebody says more taxes, we all go, no. But if there's a reason for it,
Right,
we
right.
gotta protect our town from burning up, like you did down on the highway there.
I would like to throw a plug in for the fire department to the board, having just recently sold my house in Bayshore that I resided in for 38 years and paying $831 a year in fire prevention for my fire insurance policy on about $280,000. And I built a house in the backside of Township 13, valued at $400,000, and my insurance is $425. So my insurance is half for more coverage. And that is a direct result of this department versus Steel Rock. So when you present to the public, and everybody doesn't want to pay more money because every time I turn around, I have cost sheets that are meaningless between December and now. That there's a value added with Central Coast being, having your house in Central Coast versus across the bay. That's all. I mean, that's a big bite, half.
Well, and the other thing,
That's a big positive plus that I think the rest of the community needs to understand, that our insurance rates, and I think Susan knows this better than I do, are better here than if she has to insure something across the bay. So I'm just tossing it out there. If they need more money in order to operate properly, we should try to get it for them.
well, and the other two things that people need to understand is, I just literally went through my homeowner's insurance, which is coming up in June. And the difference between last year and this year is it went up 38%. And when I called and asked about it, because I expected it to go up a little bit based on the fact that our insurances went up here, what I got from the agency was 4 insurance companies literally pulled out of the state of Oregon because of all the fires over the last couple of years. So, 3 major and 1 minor company literally pulled out of the state. So the ones that are left are raising their rates. And, and we've got a good ISO rating here. So, and I live right up the hill. So, I mean, I told them, I said, look, I got a fire hydrant that's less than 100 feet from the house. How did this go up? And it was literally because of the dynamics of the market. The other fallacy that's out there on social media is the idea that you can run a fire district like this strictly on volunteers. You can't find housing for people who are actually working for a living that can afford to live out here. I don't understand how people think you can have a full volunteer fire district fighting your fires and being available within 5 minutes or less at your house, strictly on volunteers. It just doesn't work. And that, I think there needs to be a lot of education on that, as far as, we're able to give what we can because we have a solid budget. We have a community that backs us up for the most part. And, and we have you folks that come in and double check the budget for us before we're looking at it. And we're always constantly looking for more solutions to help bring in more revenue that, besides, like what our tax base is, to help us get from point A to point B and continue to bring in the services that we're bringing in.
These are trying times.
Yes, I have a question now, but after hearing that, for some reason, getting it to be the chairperson, which is a really dumb decision. I'm concerned that the levy needs to be raised, and I mean, it needs to be raised, I get that. there's a couple of different alternatives, but that's gonna happen. I have a big concern over $500 for public education. I mean, there's some big education things that need to happen just on the finances. And I'm not exactly sure what public education means, if it's just fire safety, but I would actually be thinking about increasing that amount.
Yeah, and that won't happen until there's a decision made if we're gonna do a bond or not, and then it'll be basically, it won't be, fire education, it'll be more of, campaign monies for the district to get flyers and things out to the public. It's not in there right now because there is no measure. When there is a measure, then I'll put something in there, and then we'll have the board approve it, and then it'll go in. It won't be over 40% of the budget, so it won't require any budget committee action. But they'll go in and approve to give me a spending limit on what I can spend to put out flyers and things. Now, the fire district can't put out certain messaging. You know, there are tax laws. We're not allowed to ask people to vote yes or no. We can only put out information. You know, so we're going to put out information. We're going to say this is what the money's for. This is what it costs. This is why. You know, we can't say things like please vote. We can't say things like that. But we can put out all the information to help you decide how to vote as best as possible. So that'll happen. The 500 that's in there for education right now is what we use to buy. And honestly, most of it is for children. You know, we get like the fire prevention coloring books for when they come in and do tours with us. We get the little plastic fire hats for children. Some of it's used to get, we're gonna do, right now, we're trying to put together 2 open houses in July. They're not traditional open houses, but open houses where we can bring the public in and let Charlie do a presentation on, defensible space, thank you, you know, for their properties. Because everybody's worried about fire season this year. We've had the worst conditions in terms of fuel growth because we keep having a couple days of rain and then we get a couple days of sunlight and then a couple days of rain and then a couple days of sunlight. We're literally feeding the fuel sources out there in the wildland day by day with this alternative, you know, instead of it just being 6 weeks of rain and everything's just swamped, we're literally feeding it grow. I actually didn't cut my front yard down for a while so I could see how tall the grass in my yard would get, you know, and kind of have a gauge. And you know, I'm just trying to make sure that the HOA didn't get mad at me, you know? And so when it finally got to almost 3 feet tall, I was like, hey, you need to call somebody and have them come out. So my wife did, and they came out and chopped it down. But it actually gave me a little bit of a gauge to watch how vegetation's growing right now, and it's a lot. So, you know, nothing can burn without the incident that causes it to ignite. So hopefully we don't have anything happen, but if it does, there's a lot for it to burn. And there has been for years, especially in this area. And we had the fire on 101 last year, which was a pretty significant fire. We had the fires the night that Echo Mountain started, which were pretty significant fires. We've always been able to get ahead of them and put them out. And that's because we have personnel ready to respond immediately to get there quick and get out it before it grows. And we also have the help of our responding partners as well. We have a new auto aid agreement with Alsea Fire, so the east end of our county or of our district is now protected with extra help that a lot of people probably don't know about because we haven't put a lot of word out about it. But basically from milepost 11 beyond, Alsea Fire now responds with us automatically. And so if something happens, hopefully we get on it quick enough and get in front of it, just like we have in the past, and get under control. If it happens in the middle of nowhere and grows, and it has to make its way to us, kind of like the fire, if you remember, oh gosh, I'm going to date myself back to almost probably 8 years or so. There was a fire outside of Depot Bay. that was just out in the middle of nowhere, and there just wasn't any roads to access it. And so you kind of had to wait for it to grow to an access point to be able to attack it. And so there's a lot of forest land around us that we don't have access to. A lightning strike could start a fire, and it could grow, and we'd have to wait till it gets to a safe place to fight it. So, things like that can happen. We need to have our personnel ready to go. And it's just kind of, it's hard to keep people when you see them trying to struggle the same way that your district's budget's struggling, because they're trying to get by until, the next level of income comes in too. So, yeah, so I get it.
In case you haven't, is it possible to put out some information about the joint effort with Alsafe?
Yeah, I mean, we've put out some information, it's just not,
We
I
were
don't
waiting
think
till
it's-
the dispatching got all kind of kinks
Yeah.
worked out and stuff too.
yeah, I think we're there now.
Yeah.
So we could put out more.
News to do an article on that.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
seems to be used, it's a loose thing, so.
Yeah, we can do more. We don't try to live on social media like other people do. Other districts try to paint a picture on social media that they're doing all these amazing, wonderful things. We're busy actually doing those things. So, yeah.
All the time.
Social media is one of the reasons why the education costs, if you will, don't necessarily have to be as high as they used to. Because, the massive mail out of information, there's other methods of getting that information out that don't cost per
Yeah,
publication.
And we get
You
grants.
Get it through the mailboxes.
Yeah.
And, you can't force people to read stuff, you can't force them to come to meetings, but I remember, like, when we first moved here, there was bond or things, and one of the problems appeared to be just a lack of public understanding. And I understand, people don't come to meetings.
Yeah.
I'm on the planning commission. You could shoot a cannon off in a room and not hit anybody. But
Yeah.
I think that you'd be well served, or we'd be well served, to have that information so people, it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
And that's my own.
Keep in mind, social media, only about 20% of our community is actually on it. Yeah. So it's great for the younger generation, but when you're trying to get the information out to everyone, it's not the best way to go.
Well, it's
Mailing,
not the only way.
it's not the only way, because only about 20% of the community is actually on social media of some kind,
And they're on it all the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
I try really hard not to.
I like to. I'm not big about touting what we do or how we do it over social media. Watch what we do, watch how we respond, watch how we operate on scene, and then judge us off that.
Problem is, if everybody could see you operating on scene, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Fact is, they don't.
yeah.
I mean, that's, and, I don't, there's probably a lot of different ways of doing it. I just, want to raise the issue of.
To be blunt, we're spoiled. We're spoiled.
We are.
You walk in, you hit a switch, you expect the power to be on. You turn on a faucet, you got hot and cold water. You expect the fire department to be there. We have STR, we have people coming from out of the area. I know it's out of the water district. And you have the most people here when you have the lowest water line. And all these people are coming from places that they have fire departments, and they just expect this to be there. But we don't have the budget that Portland, Salem, Eugene.
Because those people that are coming in here aren't paying taxes into this district.
But the STRs do. And here's the rub on that, is that they don't vote, we do. And so we've got, for each voter that we have, cover a lot more territory than just our house. I don't know how you want to break that out to people, but there's a lot of money in short-term rentals. It's created a problem in the housing market, and I don't even know how to address it, how to build a cost-effective house for a young family. And I own land, equipment, and I've been doing it for half a century, and I can't answer the question. So when I hear the talking heads, I just shake my mind because I already know that they're causing more problems than helping, because most of my fees increased this year. The point for my house cost me $26,000 before I dug a hole or bought a board. My permits went up dramatically for what's called a technology fee. And we now have a portal that we go to, and I don't turn in a set of paper prints and get them stamped and handed back to me. It goes in electronically. I draw them on a drawing board, and I take them to Pacific Digital, and they make it an electronic. And then it goes into the planning department, and then it goes on to the building department, and then they give it back to me, I had to come to Jamie because they decided that they would have the fire department weigh in on whether or not get a building permit, just increasing Jamie's load. This all happened like this. I found out one morning at 9. You know, and so there's this growing.
So
pain
did I.
that we're going through. Thank you I've got the first, last, and only one ever to be issued.
Yeah, I've gotten 5 since then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This was, they didn't really give me a heads up either, so all of a sudden I just started getting these things. The first one I got wasn't even in our district. I was like, hey, this isn't even mine.
Approve a building permit?
Yeah. I mean, we've always been involved to a degree in, building, planning and things to make sure that they're, water supply access, et cetera. But now there's actually a form that we have to go out to the site and inspect. We take our hydrant testing documents and we can verify flow rates for hydrants and so, when someone says, hey, I want to build this building, and we go out there, we're like, well, unfortunately, the flow rate on the hydrant isn't high enough. You're going to need to put a fire sprinkler in for NFPA 13. And so, we've always been involved before through the building authority, but now we're actually having to do a paper trail on it too. So yeah, it's just, everybody thinks that we sit around with nothing to do. We're actually quite busy, believe it or not. So,
It's a brave new world.
yeah. Well, if there's no other questions on the budget, I think we can,
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it, but wasn't there something about, some training that you were gonna go to for vehicle or, I don't know, fire truck that you were going to implement, but it was also going to be, money coming in? Did I miss that? Did that get changed?
Oh, you're talking about conflict?
No, I thought you were going to a training.
You're talking about confined spaces?
no.
I thought it was vehicle or.
Well, so I've had a plan as the maintenance guy. I have a plan, and we didn't put it in the budget this year, that I'd like to take, because I moved my shop and everything out to Tidewater. And since I am a certified AVP, I can do work on emergency.
Okay, that's the word.
Yeah, so I can do work on emergency vehicles, and I would like to start putting it out there slowly, so I don't overwhelm myself. There's plenty to do here. But slowly, if another fire district needs help with something, or work on a pump, or electrical, or whatever, that I can do the work for them, as well as not only, I have a truck it's a mobile, basically a mobile shop truck too, that I'll be able to go to sites and help fix things, and we can charge for those things, but this is all stuff that we'll have to work on over the next year. And then, yes, it will hopefully generate some extra revenue for the district, so I didn't want to bring it up because.
I just remember being talked about.
Yeah,
so
it
I thought
was,
a
and it's
good
been
thing.
talked about, so, hopefully if it all works out, it'll be a good thing, but, yeah, until the little kinks work out, and I've got a little bit more time on my plate, and I had to push it out there.
Your buffet table gets small.
My buffet table is smaller.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and, you know, fixing fire trucks, that's part of the bond, is we are constantly fixing a fleet that, part of our fleet under NFPA standards is classified as antique. So, thanks, antique. So, thanks to a grant from the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office, we're getting a brand-new tender gifted to the district for free, which is like $460-some thousand vehicle. That's going to replace a 1981 tender out of our fleet. So if you could think of the car you were driving in 1981 being alive and well today to depend your life on, would you do it? That Gremlin or whatever it was? You know? Right? So,
Definitely pace.
I don't know, I couldn't drive in 1981, so I was a little young still, so, you know, you got a truck that almost outdates me, so, and it's still in service because it's all we have. And so it needs to go away, and luckily we have a new one coming in because we got a grant. But we could never afford to just go out and buy a $460,000 tender to replace the 1981 tender because it's dying. So the price of fire trucks went up 30% this year because of emissions requirements by the government. So last year I applied for the AFG grant to get a new engine at $650,000. This year, the application for an AFG grant for a new Type 1 engine was $875,000 for a fire, just a Type 1 fire engine. The ladder truck is cresting over $2 million, and depending on what brand you buy, you're looking at a 2-year wait period just to get it. So if I purchase it today, we still wouldn't even see it till 2026. So, yeah. Yep, welcome to the fire service. So. Are there any more questions about the budget? Okay.
Public comment on the budget?
No, and for the record, Louise Soliday has been watching, and she, when the motion's made, she votes yes, so.
Now tell her to go enjoy her vacation.
So are there any recommendations for changes to the budget? I guess we can entertain a motion to
I make a motion to approve the budget.
head forward it to the board for.
Yes. I forgot that 2 years ago. I was gonna let the chairman
Do I
do
hear a
it.
second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the budget as presented and forward it to the board for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you for taking your time, board.
Thank you for taking your time.
Couple of things, Jamie, for all the grant that he's done to get that. You know, if it weren't for you watching for those grants and doing them, would you get it?
It's really a team effort. John back there, hiding behind the podium, or at least in my viewpoint.
Yeah.
He
Hassles me at the grocery store.
hold on now.
I was looking at the bricks out front.
So, he just won a grant that he wrote on behalf of the district for a new float pump to be on that new tender. And so we just ordered that the other day, you know.
I'm constantly researching for new ones.
Yeah, Wendy's constantly researching for grants. I write a lot of the federal grants. Charlie Stay initiated the grant that got the Lucas device that's used for cardiac arrest. And so he got some of it. I was able to get some of it through another grant through OHSU that gave us the remainder to buy that device. So it's really a team effort. I mean,
I'm glad it's a effort, but, I'm grateful to all of you participating in it for what you do.
yeah, we are if there's one thing I could say, we are constantly trying to make sure that we are taking advantage of every way we possibly can to supplement the budget by getting equipment on grants. And we've gotten, Brett would know, we've got quite a bit of money in grants over the last 3 years. So, yeah, so,
Far more than prior to the prior 3 years.
yeah.
More sitting out there.
Yeah, we go after everything we possibly can as long as it's going to be beneficial to the district. Unfortunately, we've gotten to the point where the majority of grants that we typically do win don't have the ceiling limits for the things that we need to be able to fix the station, to be able to replace apparatus. You know, I'm really hoping that we'll get the engine grant because we do have a congressional letter of support from Congresswoman Val Hoyle's office with our application. So hopefully that'll carry some weight to it. But it hasn't been our grant writing that's the problem. It's been our demographics. The last 2 years, I talk to our rep for Region 10, and I say, what went wrong? You know, did we not provide enough information? Were our numbers not right? He said, nope. Your population of your district is too low, and your call volume's too low. So essentially, your demographics did not meet the demographics that the federal limits are looking for. And so I'm watching Portland and Albany and Salem get trucks and personnel and all this other stuff because they run thousands and thousands of calls, and they have a population of hundreds of thousands of people, and we get overlooked because we're too small.
Is there any way to address our population surge in the summertime?
I do. I actually put that into the grant that we influx 50,000 or more during seasonal shifts for vacation and travel tourists, and that does not get put into measure because it does not show up on the census data.
Exactly.
So,
And so in my mind, there's two things that the public can do, is you reaching out to your representatives and saying, look, you know, at the federal level, you know, one of the steps that Representative Hoyle should start looking at, because of what we've been doing through her office, is going back to FEMA and saying, hey, one size fits all doesn't work. You need to take your grant money and split it up for departments that are less than this size and departments that are greater than this size, because we're never going to compete with the Portlands and the LAs and all that.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is at the state level, you know, is getting, you know, with Representative Gomberg and others and saying, you know, you have to rethink, you know, what worked in 1990s as far as setting up, you know, a permanent tax rate being a one and done mentality just doesn't work. I mean, we're 21% behind the curve when you look at that. So, and like Jamie pointed out, the only way it gets readdressed is if you combine districts. So what the state should be doing is looking at that going, you know, okay, so if you don't combine, then we need to be looking at maybe a 5 or a 10-year plan where every 10 years, if you haven't combined with another smaller district around you, we come back in and reassess your 3% levy, you know, your permanent tax. So you get reassessed at the new rate. You're still only getting 3% of it, but you're getting assessed at $2024 and not $1998. So that it kind of bumps us up. And then that gives us a smarter look and a longer view, because now we can actually take that. We could take, knowing that that rule is in place, we could literally look at we could outlook 10 years on where we're gonna be before the next bump comes up. You know, and that gives us more budget ability, you know, when you start looking at long-term things like, you know, apparatus, building upgrades, bringing in more firefighters, because you can understand your money flow a lot better.
Yep.
And, you know, but input from the public to our representatives, along with what we're already doing, I think would go a long way.
yeah, so we put in for a grant through Congresswoman Val Hoyle's office of $3 million to $5.67 million for the station to be upgraded, seismic, and rehab to current life safety code and everything. So if we get that grant, that would essentially chop that budget down dramatically to that bond, not budget, the bond down dramatically. So rather than 60 cents per thousand, if they gave us 3 million, you could essentially see almost half of that coming off to 30 cents per thousand instead of 60 cents per thousand, because we got grant money in to offset that cost. So if they give us closer to the 5 million, then it's even more. It might be down to 19 cents per thousand, instead of 60 cents per thousand. So
Find out about that Dow oil grant.
we don't know. We may not know until as late as next February, because it's all tied up in Congress at the House of Appropriations. So, but even if we went out in November for the bond at 60 cents per thousand, and the voters said yes, and then we wouldn't even start selling those bonds till next July when that fiscal year starts, because that's when it would have to be implemented into the budget. If we found out in February that they awarded us $3 million, that means we could go back and say, we don't need the full bond amount. We need this much left over. And we would only sell off the amount that we actually needed, which means that it wouldn't be 60 cents per thousand on the public. It would be whatever we actually sell off, because that's what the payments would be to pay them back over the next 25 years. So even if we have to vote before we know, it doesn't make that number concrete until they turn us down. So if that makes sense. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being raspberry.
You're welcome.
That's one of the better chair positions.
Are we?
Anybody feel the need for a break?
Here we take a break for a second.
This meeting is being streamed live on Central Coast YouTube channel. If anyone has public comments or questions, they can comment on the live stream, and questions will be relayed to the board members and answered at the end of the meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Zach Davis? Rick Booth?
Here.
Rita Ackerman?
Here.
John Mahal?
Here.
Greg Dunn?
Here.
Lawrence Preston?
We did do the Pledge of Allegiance at the budget meeting just prior to this. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. These are the regular session minutes from April 18, 2024. Has everyone had an opportunity to read them?
Yep.
Is there any questions, additions, corrections?
I motion we approve the minutes for April 18th.
Second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from April 18th as submitted. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Do we have any citizen participation? Doesn't look like it. Okay, reports. I guess you guys can figure out what order you want them.
I'm gonna do mine towards the end, because I had Captain Townley bring around our new truck to show it off, and I have a little bit of a presentation to show you, so.
Okay.
So you want to move yours to like go to the order?
Yeah, to like the
Okay. So the only thing I really have is the postcards for the survey poll went out. So people should start seeing those in their mailboxes here real soon. We were able, between So we basically sent it out to, I went through and first narrowed it down by voters living in the same household. And then through Vistaprint, they were able to narrow down mailing address again. So we changed it to just say current resident instead of the actual, voter. So we were able to keep the cost below the 15. It came out to $12.44. So, and we'll actually get a copy of it in our mailbox. So they did all the printing and mailing for us. So that was nice. Once I finally figured out their list thing.
So we'll compile the results to have a report at the next board meeting.
And then I know there was a question, and I know Zach wasn't at the last one. I was able to get it to where it has they have to click the thing so that they're not a robot. And then it also tracks the cookies so that it doesn't get double, people doing double things on there. So I was able to do that to maybe narrow down not getting a bunch of, the same person doing a bunch of them.
Is that it for reports at this time then?
For now,
Okay, all right.
unless the union has any.
Oh, yeah, okay. Finance report.
At the end of April, the district had on hand $446,753 in cash. And the levy funds, current levy funds, $1,067,531 has been accrued through the end of April. So we're right on track to surpass that by a bit. We'll go beyond, but not too much. It's pretty close. Prior levy funds, we booked $20,764, and we budgeted $3,500. So that's a pretty substantial difference. Interest, district has collected on the cash in the account $16,684 year to date. So that's pretty good. Personnel services, we're still running high. $760,907 through the end of April. So we're coming pretty close to the budgeted amount. We have $116,084 to go for May and June. Overtime wages, $61,234, and we budgeted $26,500. So that's where the bulk of the difference is on the personnel budget. Not a lot. Jamie's cut back on a lot of stuff. Building maintenance, $8,292 for the month. Vehicle fuel, $11,577. We budgeted $18,500, so we're going to come in under budget on that, which is good. Vehicle repair, he's been a busy guy. $26,491. But I think that's one of those positive things that, hopefully it's not emergency repairs. And the only other thing I had to offer, or to share, dispatch service, $14,868, and we haven't seen a charge for April, May, and June. And we budgeted $22,830, so I think we're gonna shoot over that pretty high. There was a period of time when we were supposed to see some savings on that, or we were hoping to?
We see about $30,000 in savings on that now, because of the cell phone 911 times. So when they send me the numbers, like the ones I just got, they send me basically the forecasted number. And so that's what I put into the budget, is whatever they forecast. And that's based off of our call volume, everything. So we should be coming in relatively close. They don't bill quarterly though, do they?
Yes,
Do they?
It's not
always
that,
quarterly.
yeah.
So then we have one more quarterly coming in.
yeah.
It should be pretty close to where they forecasted based off of what I'm seeing, if not under, because our call volume went down. So it should be less.
I'll keep an eye on it in case we need to talk to them or something.
Yeah, because if it does come in over, then we're gonna need to look at the number that's in this proposed budget here as to whether or not that's gonna need to be reflected differently
Yeah.
also, but it shouldn't. So, I don't know, keep me informed.
I will. I'll keep an eye on it. That's really all I have. Oh, I did want to mention, we used the Yahats News to advertise the hearing, which was mandatory, we have to do that. And last year, the cost for that and the LB1 form, to put it in the paper, was about $850 in that area. It's $140 so far, so, and that was Rita's idea. That was good.
Try to cut corners wherever we can. Okay, so, and has everyone had a chance to review the bills? Does anybody need a chance to review the bills?
There's no conflict on this one?
Yeah,
Number
there is.
74489.
Yeah, there is.
There you go.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept the financial report and approve the payment?
I motion we accept the financials, and the only conflict I have is check number 74489.
And I second that.
Been moved and seconded to accept the report and approve the bills. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I left you
Yeah.
two choices for the resolution, to keep the equipment reserve account open or to close it, whichever way you go. And then those funds would be transferred into the general fund if you decide to close it.
Tax note. Did I put financial stuff in here?
Talked about this at the last meeting.
Yeah,
About whether or not to discontinue the equipment reserve fund and just move it into the general fund as a line item, rather than maintaining a separate fund. So we have two resolutions, and I can read them both, they're pretty short, so that you guys can decide which you want to do. So the resolution, first resolution, resolution regarding continuance of the equipment reserve fund. Whereas Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue District has the need for the reserve fund established by the General Governing Board of the Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue District for the future purchase and or maintenance of equipment. And whereas the cost of said purchases or maintenance is such that funding in 1 year may not be practical, therefore be it resolved that in accordance with ORS 294.3.43, Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue District hereby agrees to continue the reserve fund for the purpose of purchasing and or maintaining equipment. Further resolved that the reserve fund will be known as the equipment reserve fund. Be it further resolved that the need for this fund will be reviewed in 9 years from the date of this resolution. And then the second one is a resolution regarding discontinuance of the equipment reserve fund. Therefore, be it resolved that in accordance with ORS 294.353, Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue District hereby agrees to discontinue the reserve fund for the purpose of purchasing and or maintaining equipment. Is further resolved that the reserve fund balance will be transferred to the general fund upon dissolution of the fund, and both of them approved in the document. So I guess it's up to you guys to decide which one you want to do.
Is there a benefit one way or the other?
Well, I think from an accounting standpoint, less funds is easier. Both for accounting and audit purposes.
I just want to share my recommendation that we just close it for now. until we get our levy up to where it needs to be. We're not gonna be putting money into it anyway. So you might as well just close it until there's an opportune time to have it open for that specific reason.
Right. And we can always reestablish a reserve fund at that time. So,
There's no real cost to maintain it either way.
yeah, I realize that, but it's just a,
Yeah,
it's a-
Tracking and
um,
Yeah.
I motion to close it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to go with the resolution regarding discontinuance of the equipment reserve fund. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion
Is
carries.
there a resolution number on this or no?
2404, 2024-04. Okay. Is there anything under old business? We have one, the new business, the emergency cash.
Yep, so everybody has a copy in their folder of the MOU with the school district. So I met with the school district, what, Rick, a week ago? Last week?
Week and a half ago.
Week and a half ago. We talked about developing an emergency operations plan using the site of the school for operations, sheltering, supplies, logistics, et cetera, et cetera. They liked it, they agreed that they want to be part of it. And so part of that was moving our Connex that we have up at Township 13 to the school, putting our cash supplies there to blend with what's already there, and then giving the trailer that's housed at the Corona Court Station back to the county, because it's their trailer. So, in order to do that, the school would like to enter into a memorandum of understanding with us on use of the supplies between the two entities. Essentially, we can use their supplies, they can use ours. At the end of the day, when a big disaster happens, everybody's gonna be sharing everything, so it doesn't really matter. So this is what was provided. I think that fast forward a year from now, and we're starting to review the draft of the emergency operations plan and how it's gonna work, that there may be changes that come to this. But for right now, I think this is the best starting point to go forward from where we are now to getting our stuff over there and developing this plan. I've got the school's protocol, so I can start drafting up the plan without creating conflicts with how they already operate. But it's going to take time to draft up that level of a plan. It's not gonna happen in just a matter of weeks or days. It's gonna be a few months for me to draft that whole thing up. And then we have to go through several reviews, approvals, et cetera, et cetera. So I forecast it could be up to a year before this plan's really finalized, and then we may have to go back and look at this again at that point to say, is this sufficiently covering what we're currently doing with the new plan in place? So,
Well, and at this point, it's just for our information, because there's, also the city would need to, the city and sheriff's department, I think, are also going to be involved in this MOU as well. So at this point, it's simply that,
Yeah,
let us know that it's coming down the pike. And actually, I think it's a great idea. That has been one of my concerns, for as many years as we've been involved in this, in the disaster preparedness, is, the role that each entity plays, with regard to where things are stored and how they get distributed and that sort of thing. So I think, the more we work on that, the better understanding we have of it, the better we can react when it comes time if we actually need to use it. So I think it's a good idea.
yeah, there's a lot of development. I think this is just the foundation of it. So you have the draft now. What I'm looking for is a motion and approval to take it to draft to final and have it signed by the board chair and myself and the school, so we can move forward and start moving that equipment and get that, at least that portion of this process completed, because I know Township 13 wants it out of there, from what I understand. And we want to get rid of that trailer because that trailer is just too too big, too bulky, and it's not even being stored in one of our locations.
So will the school accept a partially completed MOU? If it's just us and the school district?
So this MOU is,
To do that,
yeah, this MOU is just between the fire district and the school. If they do one with the city or they do one with the sheriff's office, it'll have to be a separate document between that entity and the school.
oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, this one is just us in the school.
Well, it will be in the final.
In the final, the plan will talk about,
I mean, the final that we're going to sign.
yes,
Is
this
just
one,
going to be between us and the
Yes.
school.
This one
here.
Because this one has all of the bodies involved.
So what you're saying, Chief, is that would be the principals of Walport Middle and High School and the elementary school, not the superintendent of schools,
Yes.
because that's what they agreed to at the meeting.
Yeah, okay, but as far
You-
as the
well-
city and the sheriff's department.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. You won't have
Those won't be in the.
you won't have the school
Yeah,
superintendent
we're not-
on that one.
We're not filling in the city and we're not filling in the police portions of this.
Okay.
We're only filling in the school and the fire portions of
Yeah,
this.
and then we can accomplish
Mhm. Yeah.
And that gives us the ability to move a Conex
Yeah,
box
right.
and empty out a trailer.
it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
How are we gonna go to get the Conex box?
We'll, probably contact, what's his, the guy up on the corner of Dahl.
I can't remember exactly, it's a Coast Equipment, it was something like that, up there by Dolls. He's the one that's moved them around, he moved the Tidewater's up for me, it's like $100 and some for him to
Okay,
come down.
cool.
So,
Okay, well, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the
MOU?
MOU.
I hear a second?
I need a discussion first. Is it to accept that MOU or to allow him to write an MOU?
No, it's,
Because I don't think you're not accepting that one. He's gonna
Right.
change
yeah,
these things.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll fill in the school, us, and then it'll get signed if this is approved. None of the text will change.
What he said.
Okay.
That's what I wanna make sure what he said.
It's been
Well,
moved and
that's what-
seconded what he said. All those in favor?
That's what I thought I was motion.
Okay.
Okay, motion carried. I did notice that there was another resolution in the
Well,
packet.
that's what I was
Yeah,
reading.
that came in just a couple days ago. That's from Government Capital. That's the resolution for the tax snap.
So we may as well go ahead and consider that one. It would be resolution 2024-05. A resolution regarding a tax anticipation note for the purpose of financing short-term operational expenditures. Whereas Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue, the issuer, a rural fire protection district of the state of Oregon, desires to enter into a tax anticipation note by and between Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue as borrower and Government Capital Corporation as lender, note, for the purpose of financing short-term operational expenditures. And whereas the Fire and Rescue, to secure repayment of the loan evidenced by the note, desires to grant to Government Capital Corporation a security interest in all ad valorem tax revenues for the next fiscal year and other funds on hand not otherwise pledged to pay a debt of the Fire and Rescue. Whereas the Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue desires to designate the fire chief or the fire chief's designee as the authorized signer of the note. Now therefore be it resolved by the board for the Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue, Section 1, that the Fire and Rescue will enter into a tax anticipation note with Government Capital Corporation for the purpose of financing short-term operational expenditures in an amount not to exceed $305,000. Section 2, that the Fire and Rescue to secure repayment of the loan evidenced by the note does hereby grant to the Government Capital Corporation a security interest in all ad valorem tax revenues for the next fiscal year and other funds on hand not otherwise pledged to pay a debt of the Fire and Rescue as authorized by ORS 287A.180 of the state of Oregon. Section 3, that the Fire and Rescue designates the fire chief or the fire chief's designee as the authorized signer of the note and hereby directs the execution and delivery of the note and all ancillary agreements or instruments referenced therein or which may be necessary to consummate the transaction contemplated. So this is the tax anticipation note that we discussed in the budget meeting.
Mhm.
I motion we accept, resolution, I believe it's 2024-05.
Are you here a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2024-05 for tax anticipation note. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and so, chief report.
Okay, so grants, we should hopefully hear soon about Oregon Seismic. They said last time I talked to them, hopefully by the end of May, and we're approaching the end of May, so I hope to hear something soon. If I don't hear something by the end of May, I'll make another phone call to see where they're at and what their process is doing. OSFM engine program, they said that the tender PTOs were arriving, and so we could possibly see deliveries of tenders going out very soon. I don't really want to jinx it with a date. So, hopefully, maybe they'll go alphabetical and we'll see ours. I don't know. I'm not sure how they plan on handing them out. I know that they typically try to only do a few at a time, so it doesn't overwhelm their warehouse where they're storing equipment and things. So, maybe we'll see it soon, hopefully. Spire, we were supposed to get our PWC sometime this month, so I'm expecting an email or a phone call pretty soon from them. AFG, those typically we don't find out until September, so I'm gonna probably just put for right now that not to expect to hear anything until maybe as late as September. If you remember, in 2022, we actually didn't hear about the AFG grant until that following February. So sometimes they can take a while. But there are two AFG grants. There's the one for the Type 1 engine and then the second one for the exhaust removal system for the station. So there are two pending for that. ODF FEP grant, just waiting to hear back for that. That covers basically reimbursement costs for all the work we did on the heavy brush. So if we get that, then essentially all the work we did cost us nothing. If we don't get it, then it will have cost us what Eric will go over soon, but we're going to keep applying for that grant anyway until we get that money back. So sooner or later, we're going to get that money back. The proposal to Congresswoman Val Hoyle's office, we did quite a bit of communication back and forth last week, which I take optimistically, because if the House of Appropriations wasn't considering it, I don't think that they would have asked as many questions as they did. So, it was
Somehow more than once.
it was an interesting Friday. I had to come back to work because I couldn't answer emails over my phone. It just doesn't work very well for me. So I ended up just putting my uniform back on and coming back to make sure that they got all the information they needed when they needed it. And a lot of it was, hey, we need it right now, because it's sitting before the House of Appropriations. So they got what they needed. Now we're just kind of in a holding pattern until they say what they're going to do. So, tender 74 is still sitting in surplus status until the new tender gets here. I can't get rid of it until we have the new tender in hand. So it's still just standing by at Five Rivers. The fire hose, now that we've equipped heavy brush and we've gotten all the hose from the grant, we can start sending that hose out, because now we know what we need. So all the excess fire hose that we had can now be start to get sold off. So we'll start doing an inventory on that and getting that put on Gov Deals soon. Emergency operations plans, again, we already went over that just a minute ago, so I can skip over that. Beachcombers will up staff to 4 for that Saturday. And then we'll also have our wildland fire staffing personnel, because we did get the staffing grant again this year. So we'll have our wildland fire staffing personnel on duty for that Saturday as well. And then officially, the wildland fire staffing personnel will start after July 1st. We're basically hiring one person per shift to staff the engine of the 3 for the season. So That also gives us our third rider for the heavy brush if we do configuration, because we have to send it on the board for free. So, that covers that, in case we have to send it. We are planning to have 5 vehicles in the parade. So we'll have the command vehicle, like usual, up front, engine 72, rescue 72, heavy brush 73, and brush 72, all in the parade. We may swap out brush 72 for Eric's vehicle if it's done in time. We'll see. So we'll see.
Eric's maintenance.
Yes.
Yeah, or the tender, if the tender's here, we'll try to put the tender in there. I don't know that the tender will be here, but I don't know.
Still say July 4th.
So CERT asked us if they could borrow cones and barrier tape so that they could have a better barrier for closing off the roads along the parade route. I said yes, as long as they have the means to collect them back up afterwards and bring them back and return them to the place that they found them. So they're working on that. So all of our cones are branded with CCFR on them, so it's very easy to know that, there are cones. When Beach Bike and Blues tried to bring cones back, they brought some extra cones, and we knew right away they were not our cones because they did not have our marking on them. So we were able to tell them, no, these aren't ours, and take them somewhere else. If our cones go missing, then at least if we see cones, we can tell if they're ours or not. So, yeah. But, so, and John knows that they're working on logistics of making sure they get the cones collected at the end of the parade. So. The only other thing that was there is I went through, made all the approved changes to my contract, and I provided Rita with a final copy of it. She's got it to go through to verify, make sure I didn't sneak something in there. And so it's ready for signing whenever. So, and then it's been busy. So yeah, lots going on. As I said earlier, John, stand up and take the bow, bud. John won a grant for 46 and change, almost 47. Yeah, so that we could buy a float pump, and that was from Three Rivers. So we want to make sure to say thank you to them publicly. We'll do a post about it. We've got a nice picture with John and getting the check at the event. Do they have good food?
They did.
Yeah. All right, good. There we go.
Just to kind of add to that, it's a big deal that we're getting this pump because there was not this year, I think it was last year, we used it 4 or 5 times when similar during, and especially the 9 Mile fire. It actually helped us and had 2 lines on the ground pumping water out of the river. So it's a big deal that we have this because we've needed it.
Well, so much of our district is upriver
Yeah.
without hydrants.
No hydrants.
Yeah.
We used it on the 9 Mile fire for that house fire that was across the river. We also used it on the fire that was on the other side of the bay, that from the Comrade, what do you call it, Comrade?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, the ziggurat?
The chasing of
flares.
the birds.
Chasing the birds fire.
Yeah, when they were,
We used it for the 10 Mile fire that we had a few years back, that, when the lumber mill burned
The
down.
ziggurat.
No, not the ziggurat.
Oh,
Cedar Mill.
right.
It was a cedar mill, and it spread to wildland, so U.S. Forest Service was working on wildland, we were working the mill. There was a pond that we were able to steal water out of using flood development for that to fill our tenders, so yeah, it's
Our tenders, Newport's tenders,
everybody's tenders, yeah, it's a valuable piece of equipment, and this will be an upgraded one to the one we're currently have, so definitely better. So, congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations to the district.
Yep.
They're the ones who get it.
Yep. So,
Anything else to come before the board for the good of the order?
Just Eric.
Oh, other than, well, I think we can go ahead and
We can
adjourn the
adjourn.
meeting to Eric's report since it's going to be a demonstration.
yeah.
Well, it's, so on the screen, I have a little video. One thing that, to point out, I don't have all the numbers of the exact how much it costs, but I've got 112 hours into this truck, into our new heavy brush, which is, if you take current shop rates, is about a savings of about $16,000. I went through and did a bunch of sat up with, and did suppliers and vendors and so on, and got us really good deals, if not dealer accounts with some of these places, so that we got even wholesale rates. So that saved us in excess of about $8,000 to $9,000 in just material. So what could have cost us a lot for this is saved us quite a bit. Sorry it's so loud.
The speaker in the corner.
We override 10 minutes to it.
I think Yahoo News would put that on their website if you asked them. Which would be
He's
good
got a
advertising.
That
whole
needs to
write-up.
go out on social media.
It's set up to go out.
So we are still live, and I did just broadcast live on there. It's set up to go be posted on, at 6:30 tonight, along with a lot lengthier write-up in regards to the savings, what we potentially could make with it, on conflag, so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's all gonna go out.
Impressive lights.
Yeah.
I really like those lights.
Those are, so one of the things in the post is there's a few key vendors that I tagged in the post and went through and found their Facebook pages. I know that we try not to do that with, as a public entity, recommending, if you will, but these folks actually put, like, the lighting, we saved close to $4,000 on.
We're not recommending, we're showing appreciation.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I put in there, I said, big thanks to, and I tagged Phoenix Industries is the one that did all the emergency lighting. They're kind of they've been around for a while, but they're emerging into the emergency, market. So the lighting was very easy to install. It's awesome. So, and we are now dealers
Well, I just
for
like
it.
the fact that, you can tell that rig is there. There is no doubt that there is a vehicle, doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And I do have it out here if you guys all want to see it, so. Because this is the first rig of all of them that does have the mobile black box in it. I've already been asked if it can be turned off. It cannot. If the car's running or the truck's running, they are on permanently. It records whether the emergency lights are running, the speed, G-forces, any kind of inertias that may, are out of the norm. It will start recording those things. So, it's just like an airplane black box, except it's for a car. So if something happens, and it's got 4 cameras, it's a 360 view, so if something happens with it, the driver obviously needs to be aware of it too, that it could go either way. But the idea is that it can help us, with potential lawsuits, so.
So if we want to adjourn,
Now
and
we can
everybody
adjourn
can
and go admire the truck, right?
go admire the truck, yeah.
Meeting is adjourned.